Welcome back. Now it's time for the discussion segment. We have with us Promise Oyelaran, who will be discussing remote education, capturing the benefits and the risks involved. We know that the world is moving into a digitalized environment, and everything has to do with technology. You need to have like the basic technological skills, and you have to be at least tech savvy to move forward or to progress in the world right now. So we have Promise Oyelaran, like I said earlier, who is a social analyst that will be doing justice to everything that has to do with remote education. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's start with remote education. We know that many remote education, there's remote jobs, which is quite popular nowadays, remote jobs, but then remote education, of which I personally do not think that it is very much popular in this part of the world, in Nigeria. So what exactly is remote education and how does it run?
Okay, remote education, like you said, we have remote jobs, and that's working from home. So basically remote education is studying, learning from your comfort zone. So that's what remote education is. And you said something, you said you don't think it is viable here in our country. Yeah, definitely everything is possible. It's just about putting the right things in place to make these things
work out. Okay,
exactly.
so how does it run? Can you give us like a rundown of how exactly it runs, maybe for an average school system?
Okay, like an average school setting, remote education also have their calendar, whereby you start off with maybe orientation and matriculation of intakes of new students. And all these things are also done remotely. And you also have your lecture phases, that is the duration of which you have to study, which you have to attend lectures. Basically, these lectures are also remotely, that is, they are online. You have different materials, different catalogs for you to study with. And after that, you also have the assessment period also. From everything you've been studying, from whatever materials you've been using, you also have the time where you have to take tests. Then after that, the examination that would cap up the whole period of learning to show you certified, to show you that you have actually gone through this process and you're ready to get the certification. Then after that, you, depending on the duration of your course, it could be more than a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, depending on the course you're studying and the institution you're studying with. Then you graduate and have your certificate.
All right. Now, do you agree with, because there's some people who say that they prefer remote learning to the physical one. Do you agree with the fact that remote learning takes less time and effort? Because, you know, there are some people that when they want to go for extra schoolings and all of that, they believe that I don't have so much time to go and waste in to sit down somewhere and start listening to 5 hours lecture and now do you really think that learning digitally takes less time?
No,
and even less effort?
I don't think I will agree with that. I think remote learning even takes more time and more effort. So this now comes to the place of time management. I tell people, a lot of people will say there is no time. It depends on how you schedule your time. How are you able to manage your time? Because with remote learning, what you have to understand is you learn at your own pace. That is, if you have a duration of 14 weeks for lecture, that doesn't mean you have to that doesn't mean it's round the clock for 14 weeks. The duration of the lectures might just be maybe 5 hours per day. So it's now depending on I have other things I'm doing. How do I manage my time to meet up with my class time? Because even with some programs right now, they need to see you active for that number of time on whatever space you're learning from. So it doesn't necessarily say because you're learning remotely, you had to spend lesser time or it's taking lesser effort. It's depending on how intentional you have with the study you have undertaking at the moment.
Okay. You know, it's rightly said, and I understand what you've pointed out. But then I think that I have one issue about it, which is where I think we talk about the limitations and challenges that comes with remote learning. Now you see that when you go to a physical institution, you have people that you are accountable to. You know that yes, you're accountable to people. You are not in class. They know you are graded rightly and well. But now, the remote learning, we know I have taken a couple of online courses and all of that, and I know many times I barely even finish the course, so I have to just run through. There's a way you play videos to watch your courses. You can maybe fast forward it, just play and all of those things, and you skip through. Nobody knows about all of this. It shows that you are not. Nobody's following up. We are not accountable to anybody. So how well are they graded? Because at the end of the day, I write the exams and then I pass, and then they give me a certificate. To me, that's not schooling. That's not learning.
That's freestyle. Okay, but let us also be factual with ourselves. Even in the four walls of school, it's not every time you attend lectures.
But majority of the times you attend lectures.
And
because attendance is good.
Yes, the attendance is taken. And it's not every time you sit for lectures that you're actually listening to what the lecturer is saying. So it depends. See, I tell people there are different learning processes. There are some people that when they pick up a book and they skim through, they already have a knowledge, so they understand what it is that they want to go right. Whereas there are some people, they need hours of opening, going through to assimilate whatever they need to understand. So it's depending on individuals. And I wouldn't say, I think even with remote education, the ones that I've been involved with and the ones I have seen, there are places where you are accountable. There's accountability. It's just about getting to that point. I can tell you, education didn't also, the four walls, the schools that we attend did not get to that level overnight. It took a process. It took a lot of steps. So for remote education, for remote learning, there's still a long way to go. And I believe all over the world, they are getting there. And I believe in Nigeria, we'll get there. Yes, we have a lot of challenges if we want to talk about.
Let's talk about some of the challenges.
Some of the challenges.
Before we talk about some of the challenges, you were talking about some people having to read before they understand. Now, it's bringing me to this question. What about, do you think that remote learning is for everybody? Because there are some people that they have to see this person who has to talk to them.
Exactly. See all the facial reactions.
See the facial reaction before they get to assimilate what this person. That is like someone like the kind of person I am. I have to see you. You have to really. It's like the way I'm seeing you is sinking.
Exactly.
And I have tried online courses, and sometimes I just sleep off on it. You get? Do you think it's for everybody?
Yeah, I think it's for everybody.
Wow.
And why I say it's for everybody is there are needs for everyone, and there are ways to meet the needs for everyone.
Okay.
Like you saying now that you need to interact. If you're going to take online classes, I think it is more of you having a personal tutor who might not be available in your locality, but can have time for you where you can interact.
You can have a visual,
a visual interaction. So online remote learning is for everybody. It's about meeting the needs or the challenge of an individual part-time.
Okay, so let's go back to the challenges.
Let's go.
All right, when we're talking about challenges, I tell people a lot of things that happen in our country, Nigeria, is a reflection of where we are as a nation. When we're talking about remote learning, when we're talking about the economy, when we're talking about a lot governance and everything we want to talk about as a nation, insecurity, everything we want to talk about as a nation, it all boils down to the same vicious circle. And when I'm talking about this vicious circle, what do I mean? When we look at the depletable electricity supply we have in this country, when we look at the technological savviness of Nigerians, and even how tech savvy is the country as a whole. There are a lot of things that we should be doing technologically right now that we still do manually. So we need to move past that. We need to grow in technology.
Very true.
And when we're talking, I tell people technology is not something, it's something an average Nigerian pupil can build. It's just about understanding the language. And how do they understand this language? It's still through the education we're talking about. If we look at the education system in Nigeria right now, I tell people it is more of the theory. You just load people. This is the theory of economics, the theory of this, the theory of that. And basically where we should be moving now in education is more of practical problem solving. we shouldn't just be, yes, it's good to be knowledgeable in theoretical aspects, but we should also be practical. How do you challenge a situation like this if you get into this position? How do you challenge it? So that people will start taking responsibility. I feel, and that is why you see a lot of people, this is not to downplay the people that graduate with first class or whatever in school, but you see most of them, when they get to the place of employability, a lot of employers of labor would not necessarily be interested in them because they feel, okay, you know the theoretical aspect. On the job, how well employable are you? How responsive are you to the trends and happenings in the modern world?
Yeah.
How responsive are you in terms of emotion, in your emotional intelligence? How do you interact with people, interpersonal relationship? All these things are what we should be looking at. And when we're also talking about the remote education, I think it should be more practical when we also want to delve into it completely as a nation. And with us delving into it, we would achieve more, because we will get to more persons per time. Because an average school setting is supposed to be 1 teacher to 20 pupils. And why is that? It's because of space.
Okay.
And also the time they have with those pupils.
One-on-one
if they need to answer questions from courses or from lessons that I was taking per period. But when we look at the remote learning, this one avoids us the chance where one person can attend to at least 1,000 persons. Because what you need to do is, those 1,000 persons is not in your space.
In your space, yeah.
They all have their own time schedule where they can access whatever materials they want to access. Then also, if there's even need for them to meet with you one-on-one, there could be a time frame. Okay, you meet with me between this period and this period. You meet with me the next time. So that is it. But when we look at all this, we also should, like we said, we should look at the challenges. Let's look at the challenges in remote learning in Nigeria. First of all, we should look at internet. How many people have good internet services? How many persons? Yes, it's better than where we used to be, but there's room for improvement. We are in a world where we're already talking about 5G, and I know there's still other advancements coming, and it's going like a trailblazer. So we need to step up. We shouldn't be left behind. At this point, we shouldn't be talking about just some cities having the 5G network. Everybody should be having access to it. At least more than 70% of the nation. Based on that, yes, another challenge we would be having is our population. We have enormous number when it comes to enormous number, and it's very very difficult, because even in some aspect, in some tribes, or in some ethnic diversity, or in some ethnic places, they don't see the value for education. Yes. Imagine you now telling them that you should now come and learn online. So it's something that it won't even sit well, because they'll be like, how would the person I don't want to send to school, how would I now give him a device, which they might even see as a devil box? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So the other challenge we would also need to talk about is, what information do people get on these spaces, on the websites they log into? Because a lot of times when you go on spaces now, the pop-ups you see, they might not even. So that might be a challenge for someone like the parents that wants a moral standard for their child.
Definitely.
Like, no, internet remote education is a no. I need to know what this child is doing in school. I need to be able to monitor. But you see, one thing I tell people, it's okay to sit down and point fingers and not do anything as a problem solver. So for every challenges, there is a solution.
Okay.
If we're talking about internet, there is a solution.
Okay, so what are the solutions? What do you think can be done to help the internet service here in Nigeria? We know that many network providers are lately. So I don't want to mention the name of the network. It has been so terrible. So imagine trying to load.
We'll mention almost everything.
Yes. So trying to even go to a website and load the website, it takes a long while. Trying to watch a video, to download the video, it takes a whole lot of time. Imagine you have your class to attend and then you can't even log into your class. It's stressful. So what can be done?
So basically, there was a program I was involved with. One of the things we did was we met with some of these internet service providers. So we had like a meeting point where, in case you're having issues with internet, you can come in, plug into the system, and get access to whatever you want to do on the internet. Yes, we might have challenges, but we might have bad networks when we're talking about internet service, but also there are other ones that can serve as a stopgap for whatever it is. So that is it. So if you're looking at remote learning, you should also foresee those circumstances whereby the services might not be available. And if we're also talking about internet, let us also look at the costs.
Yes, that's another thing.
That's another thing. Imagine where I have to spend thousands of naira for an hour or 2 hours of lecture, and I don't have that. I cannot afford it at the moment.
Yeah.
That's a challenge for me. I might have to just be like, oh, I'll pause it, I'll go back. But like I said, when they can go to those stop gaps and be like, okay, let me plug in, at least it's something I can enjoy. So those are things that can serve as a temporary solution to some of these things. And basically, we now, as a nation, both the public sector and the private sector, is to sit down and look at how do we improve on these network services. It's beneficial to us.
Talking about improvements and all of that, we talked about enormous population the other time, and then I remembered that bringing it down to secondary school students, primary school students, we have private schools, we have public schools, and by the time you look at these public schools, we have a lot of them, a whole lot of them in one class.
Yes, that's true.
How do you think that digital learning can be achieved with this set of children? Okay, well, there's an issue that we cannot go to school for now, and then we have to, just like that COVID era, and we have to just learn remotely. How do you think this can be achieved with this set of people?
Okay. Basically, I think when we're talking about remote learning, we're not just talking about the internet. We should also understand that we have the video recordings of teachings, we have the audio recordings, and we could also have manuals for reading. Those are parts of remote learning catalogs that you can learn from. So when we're talking, yes, it's very possible to train or to teach even the public schools. It's something that we also during the COVID era, it became a necessity and we had to adapt to it. At least I remember then there were radio time that they had to go, listen so you can learn this at this period. Yes, it might not be as effective as we want it to be. So that is now the place of the feedback. Because I tell people communication, all these things is all about communication, and communication is a circle. There's a sender, there's a receiver. And when do you know your communication is effective is when you get the feedback. So how do you deal, then when you get the feedback, you'll be able to understand, okay, this is where we need to improve on. This is good, we can continue on this line, we'll get more results on this line. So this is now where the feedback is important. If you're giving out materials and you are testing, see, there are a lot of ways to test people's knowledge these days, and when you put that into use, you'll be able to get
the desired result. The
information you yourself you need as an educator that wants to teach someone remotely. You'll be able to improve on your materials. You'll be able to improve on your syllabus. You'll be able to improve on the technique you use in teaching. Because if you want people to understand you, then your technique should not be ambiguous. It should be
very simple enough
yes,
for people to adapt,
people to understand and assimilate. So
okay.
that's
Thank you so much for that answer. Now let's move on to the number one major tool that is needed for remote educations. We need either phones or laptops or maybe computers and all of that.
Yeah.
We know that many people, now we talked about the population. We have like the middle class, the high class, of which the high class can actually afford all of those things. The middle class can manage to afford it. Then we have the low class. These people are people who have parents that are illiterate, parents that barely have enough to survive on a dollar per day, and it's a whole lot for them. And now the government introduces, or maybe the school system introduces, the remote kind of learning. How is it possible for them to get this gadget, these tools, to make sure that they learn? COVID period, of course, there were radios, but not many of them did not have radios.
Yes.
Many of them did not even have televisions. Many of them did not even have phones to
learn. Some that have the television and the radio, where's the electricity? The
electricity to power it.
Exactly.
So what can be done about that? Because we talked about all of these things. What can be done for people that don't even have gadgets? Do we leave them aside? Because I think everyone has a right to education.
You see, a lot of persons will come here and say, when you ask questions like this, and be like, government needs to step up and do a lot of things. But I, for one, I am a believer that even we, as the private sector, we have a lot to do in communal development. What do we do in our space? I tell people, okay, let me cite an example. During the, I think it was pre-COVID, it was before the COVID period, we had this program, and we needed to put tablets out there for low-cost private schools here in Nigeria. And we're able to get tablets for as low as 15,000 naira then, and the tablets could serve whatever you want to do, what we wanted it to do at that time. So what we had to do is, okay, let us start looking for means to subsidize these things. Yes, we might not be able to foot the bills for all these things. And we started looking for grants and all the likes. And we were able to get some, and we did the program. And it was, I can tell you it is effective. Because even till now, schools that were beneficial of that program still are in it. And they're still requesting for more of those tablets per time. So that is it. So it's now about how the private sector can do their part and achieve these things. Because except we want to deceive ourselves, when it comes to government, waiting on the government in this country, Nigeria, it will be a long waiting time.
So you don't think we should still call on the government, because that's what we do really, but
we keep calling. How many of the times have they answered us? So it is time for us to take our destinies in our hands. I tell people this, to be factual, I tell people this. It has gotten to the point that we are the ones suffering this ripple effect.
Yes.
So how do we mitigate it? I know of people whereby they had, as a community, they had to raise money and fix their electricity. They're enjoying it.
Definitely.
It's not everybody that have this, but if you can do it in your community,
do it. Communal development.
And on the long run, imagine the lives you would have touched if you can put children who are out of school and put them back in school. And put them back in school. So it's about responsiveness. Let us all be responsible. Because everybody is talking about jackpotting.
Very true.
It's not everybody that
has the means actually jackpot.
And the funny thing about this is we are losing our best aunts.
Definitely.
So how do we build our nation? How do we better the lot of the nation?
Yes. So on that aspect, I have one last question before we call it a wrap here. In how many years' time do you think that Nigeria as a country can move to that path where we really want it to be, where we don't have to push out our best hands. We don't have the issue of brain drain. Or we know that even the low class family, the few or the people in the low class can actually enjoy or benefit from from the remote education. In how many years' time do you think this can work, and do you think that it's going to be sustainable?
And do you think that later on we can also base our old stuff, our old ideas on education on technology?
Yeah, on technology.
Yes.
Okay. You see, first and foremost, I think the first thing to do is draw up an action plan. And when you're talking about an action plan, it's not about sitting down and talking and keep saying, we need to do this. No, enough of talking. The stakeholders that are involved in education and that understands the importance of education need to come together and foster plans that can make this achievable. Yes, if we're saying 5-10 years, it's possible in 2 years. It's possible in 3 years. It's about those action plans. We've mentioned these challenges. We know these challenges. All we need to do is tackle the challenges. So all I'm going to say from my home point of view, or from where I am sitting on the table, is that all we need to do is how fast we can tackle these challenges, is how fast we can attain
that point you really want to get to.
The point you want to get to.
Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed that conversation.
Thank
I
you.
hope that the stakeholders or people who are listening to this discussion now would actually do the best they can within their community. I think that, if effecting change is not just, it shouldn't be, I want to take it on to a large scale, I want to go around the country and all of that. You can actually do that
from
in
wherever
your
you
community,
find yourself.
Even from your household.
From your household. Yes,
someone,
somebody that doesn't have maybe a laptop, and you have the ability to maybe give them one or spare them yours. Please give it to them. I think every child has the right or a right to education, and quality education. And if you can help your child to get the quality education that they deserve, we'll go on a short break, so you're back with Daybreak Africa. To stay with us.